The Ethiopian government says that it has recaptured two towns which previously had fallen to the militants from the Tigray region. The warring parties have now been fighting for a year. The conflict has cost thousands of lives and is threatening to escalate.
A Nobel Peace Prize winner at the head of an army. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed encouraged his troops to destroy Tigrayan forces. You are heroes, but you don't know that you are. The country is there because of you. You are the ones keeping Ethiopia's existence as a country. Tigrayan youth are falling like leaves. They should know that they have been defeated and surrender. This came after Ahmed called on all citizens to take up arms to fight the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front. People in the capital Addis Ababa showed up in droves. For weeks, the TPLF and its allies have been battling close to the city, part of a wider offensive that's gone far beyond the Tigray region. Diplomatic efforts are in high gear. Last month, the U.S. got involved, with Secretary of State Anthony Blinken on his first African mission.
We'd like to see the parties come together at the table to put in place a cessation of hostilities. We need to see humanitarian assistance flow freely now. We need to see people detained released.
But China is also involving itself. The foreign minister flew to Ethiopia to express his support for the government. We understand the situation in Ethiopia very well. Ethiopia has the history, acumen, and capacity to solve this problem. We also want the problem to be solved there this way. Bringing the two sides together will be anything but easy. The war has killed thousands and displaced more than 2 million people. A state of emergency is in effect in the capital, and citizen patrols, allegedly supported by the government, roam the streets at night looking for TPLF sympathizers. Human rights organizations and the United Nations say there have been widespread abuses on both sides. Meanwhile, with passions running high in the capital, the U.S. and several European countries have called on their citizens in Ethiopia to leave, a sign of less than total faith that peace negotiations will succeed.
And for more now, we want to bring in Coletta Wanjohi. She's a journalist based in Nairobi. She knows the Tigray region very well, and she's been following this conflict closely. Coletta, it's good to have you on the program. You know, we're hearing from the Ethiopian government that they've won several key battles. Does this tell us that they're able to protect the capital, or do they have the chance of winning back control of the Tigray region?
The news is very significant for the federal government because we know some of these areas that the Prime Minister says he has been able to recapture from the TPLF are very close to the capital city. The two of them that really caused a lot of tension recently and made many people leave, especially foreigners, thinking that the capital would fall. Some of them are just about 400 kilometers away from the capital city. So yes, it is significant. The government has gone ahead to say that the Prime Minister has gone to the war front in a bid to not only protect the capital city, but also push back the TPLF back into the northern region because they were advancing towards the capital city. So yes, it is strategic and quite symbolic, showing that the government is really working to ensure that the capital is safe.
And yet we hear from the Tigray fighters, as you said, the TPLF, they insist that they still have the upper hand in this conflict. Why are they saying that if it's not true?
I guess during a war, every party has to defend itself, has to project itself, because they all have supporters. There are Ethiopians who support the TPLF, and there are other Ethiopians who support the federal government forces, you see, so and the efforts. So the TPLF has been saying that they're just moving away strategically, but the government insists that they are pushing them away militarily. So yes, it is probably a reason for them to continue ramping up support from their supporters and ensuring that they keep that morale that they have kept throughout the fighting.
And Coletta, we want to let our viewers know you were one of the few journalists allowed into the Tigray region earlier this year. What is life like for the people there?
When we went there, the war was still very young, quote unquote, it was still very young into the war. It was around March. And I believe that the same factors that we saw then still count right now. It is about displacement. It's about people being very desperate. People living, then they were living in classrooms because they had been forced out of their homes. We had women and children who talked about having been sexually molested. The human rights workers there were telling us these are cases that they're getting. Mental disability because of the war was still a factor. And we know the United Nations is still talking about food insecurity, especially for the affected. The numbers have grown. They are now talking about over 9 million people who might need emergency food assistance. So the factors that were there then are still being projected now by the United Nations, by the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission, and other agencies that are working closely with the people. So desperation is what I would call all these, especially for those who've been directly affected by the conflict.
Yeah, and which makes it all the more important that journalists such as yourself are able to get into the region and to get that truth out to the world. Journalist Coletta Wanjohi joining us tonight from Nairobi. Coletta, thank you.
Thank you.